All right, this is the next episode of True Wrestling Fan Discussions. We are back with the Hulk Hogan series. It's been almost a year. What part? I don't even know what part we're up to. This is Hulk
It's
Hogan.
got to be like 13 or something. I don't
Whatever,
know, man.
whatever the hell it is, we're back in the adventures of Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. And we're starting off with what was the beginning of the end of the NWO.
1999.
Yep, that is January 4th, 1999, and what became the legendary or infamous Finger Poke of Doom. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm Frank. Let's get on. Let's just get started with the next nail in the coffin for WCW because remember, in 1999, that company lost $15 million.
Oh, geez.
And if you look at the roster they had starting with this night, you got to ask yourself how. Well, bad storylines, bad booking, and doing this wasn't smart. So here we go. January 4th edition of Nitro. Kevin Nash was actually supposed to face Goldberg in a rematch
Right. He
from
had announced
Starrcade.
that. I believe he had announced it the previous week that he didn't like the way that match ended with the interference.
Can we blame him?
Right. So he's gonna give Goldberg a shot on this night.
Yeah. However, Goldberg was arrested due to the NWO Hollywood accusing Goldberg of
Well,
stalking Miss Elizabeth.
yeah, Elizabeth specifically was the one who made the accusation.
Yep.
Nash then comes out and says he knows that Hogan has to be behind this. I think who's the one that comes out? Is it Flair that was the president? Flair's the president at this time. I know that much.
Oh boy.
And it's announced that okay, Goldberg will probably be cleared by the end of the night, but Nash says I want to fight Hogan, in a warm-up match or something to that effect. And then they're like, well, okay, you'll fight Hogan first, and then you'll fight Goldberg later on in the night.
Yeah, because Hogan made his return for the first time since November.
Since Halloween Havoc, I guess since right after Halloween Havoc run. That was his last match, I know that.
Yeah.
He was running
And
for president.
yeah, oh Jesus. And he actually challenges Kevin Nash this night
Yeah.
to a match.
So Hogan's ready to fight. Hogan has all black on. Doesn't even have his wrestling gear on. His hands are all like taped up, like he's ready to fight. Scott Steiner is actually the leader of the NWO at this time, so he comes out with Scott Steiner. Now Goldberg's already been cleared. Elizabeth has already admitted that I believe she has admitted that she faked these charges. So Goldberg is in the building.
Mhm.
So Hogan comes out to the ring, and guess what? Kevin Nash Wolfpack music hits, and who comes out with him? His old buddy Scott Hall. The Wolfpack is reunited. The roof blew off the place. Everyone is excited. Now you're not getting Goldberg and Nash, but people are excited to see this. And Scott Hall's back home where he belongs. They get in the ring. Nash is messing with Hogan. He rips the shirt, like mocking Hogan, like he's doing the Hulk Hogan T-shirt rip with the NWO shirt. And then he goes up to him, and they face off, and then Hogan just goes,
And pins him.
and down goes Nash.
And he's now the WCW champion. And after the match, Hogan celebrated with Hall, Nash, and Scott Steiner as they reunited as
And they're
NWO
booing, and
Elite.
then people,
Oh yeah, because we would okay. They went to Nitro that night expecting Nash and Goldberg, and they get this garbage.
you screwed the fans. Like
Yeah, if you
you
look at
told
the
them,
crowd, you see their reactions,
yeah.
and half of them were like, "What the hell just happened?"
You're basically saying screw the fans because you had built up that whole Wolfpack versus Hollywood thing for the longest, and the Wolfpack was over, and Nash was over as a babyface. He had just gotten the title under dubious circumstances, obviously, but you just took a crap all over them, and it's like that's just really really bad booking. And nobody wants to admit that they screwed up. Like when you hear them talk about it, they're like, "Well, it worked because the fans got mad. We got heat. That was bad heat. That was go away X-Pac heat. That was like we don't like what you're doing heat. You know."
That's I'm
And
not coming to the next event heat
right, and
or
then
watching this on TV.
Goldberg actually comes out after the match though, and he gets stomped out.
A guy that should be wrecking all of them
Yeah,
is now getting a weekly ass whooping.
yeah, and then to make matters worse, stupid WCW. That was the same night that they aired on Monday Night Raw. Mankind winning the title from The Rock, and they had announced it on the air. Like, oh yeah, that'll
Tony
put a lot
Schiavone.
of Tony Schiavone, put a lot of butts in the seats, and people switched over to
I
watch
did.
that. Right, I
As
had
soon as
already
Schiavone
known.
said it, I did it.
I had already known because I had read it online, but there was a lot of people that didn't know that because it wasn't live, obviously. Raw wasn't live, I should say.
But you remember that crowd reaction
Yeah,
when Mankind
they
did.
did. Yeah,
No
they did
wonder
switch
why they were
over.
drawing 6.0 and up, and Nitro's doing 3.5.
All right. I mean, they do eventually switch back over because the rating wasn't bad for Nitro, but that was a disaster ending.
And also the fact that if you look at the ratings as it's going hour per hour, the minute Shivani did that, the drop
Right.
on Nitro's numbers and the rise of Raw, because everybody's like, oh wait a minute, oh thank you for telling
Right.
me that, I want to
Yeah.
see that.
Nitro
Finally, Bischoff finally giving away what was going on finally backfired on him this night.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, Nitro had the ability because they were on TNT to go over the time limit. So once Raw ended,
Oh yeah,
people did switch back. But either way, that was a huge mistake. This was a huge booking mistake. Nobody wants to take fault for this, but I'm gonna tell you who I think it was right now. Hulk Hogan. This had to be Hulk Hogan because the finger poke of doom had to be Hulk Hogan because Nash didn't gain anything out of this. He gained nothing.
other than embarrassment.
Yeah,
You're the world champion and you just gave it up like that.
right, right after beating Goldberg. So
Yeah.
I have to assume this was Hogan's plan to get the belt back, and that he's behind the finger. Even though Bischoff has the final say, to be fair, but bad booking, and it gets
but that's all right because later in '99, these two will actually have a feud. So
right, but
but now is garbage.
it gets worse because then I think we go into Thunder. I think later that week it was WCW Thunder where now they're NWO Elite, but now they're kind of there's the B team, right?
Not official. The NWO Elite still had Luger, Conan, Bagwell, for whatever reason, Disco Inferno, Bischoff, and Miss Elizabeth. So they would wind up doing what they call trimming the fat out of this group.
Well, Conan, I forgot when Conan gets kicked out.
Oh, it's coming up.
Because
it's almost right away. It's actually on the 11th, a week later.
So on Thunder, they go face to face. The black and white, quote unquote. They're not the B team officially, and the NWO Elite. And then Giant is asking.
No, it's still NWO Hollywood.
Yeah, NWO Hollywood. Giant's asking like, "Oh, what's going on here? You didn't tell us what was going on." Hogan is now dressed like he's like a gang member, kind of. He's got these really baggy jeans, like the Jenko jeans, I think they were called.
Jenkos, yeah.
He's looking ridiculous.
Yeah,
he's trying to act
didn't look right in that. I'm
trying
sorry.
to act like he's trying to act like he's a thug, and it doesn't work. That doesn't work for me, brother. So
it's not gonna work for me, brother.
Yeah, and I think I know at some point the Giant calls out Hogan, and then Hogan gets pissed, and they have a face to face in the ring, and Hogan basically says like, "Hey, listen, there's only room for one Giant, so you and Nash got to face each other to find out who is the one and only Giant." Which we know what that leads to. Nash beats him, and Giant gets kicked out of the NWO again. But it was because we know it was because he was going to WWF at the time. That's why he got.
Yeah, he was gone.
Got thrown out, and I think is that when Conan tries to help.
The same night both of them got thrown out.
Yeah, Conan, see ya, which is a shame because Conan was over.
In the Wolfpack, yes.
Oh my God. He was over as hell.
He was one of the most popular guys.
You know what? And before this, Macho Man had shown up right before this in the black and white with Gorgeous George, and then he just vanishes.
Yeah, it comes back later in the year.
Right, then he comes back later in the year, so I'm like,
looking all roided up.
He was supposed to still be part of the Wolfpack, and this goes to show you how chaotic and they didn't know what they were doing. You got Stevie, you got Stevie Ray in there who's like trying to be a stooge to Hogan.
He actually assumed the leader of NWO Hollywood.
Later on, he becomes part of the leader of the B team. Yeah. I think I don't even think it's Hollywood at that point, but he tried to get into Elite.
B team, yeah.
I don't know if you remember this. He tried to get into Elite.
It wasn't officially B team. It was
He ratted out Kurt Hennig because him and Kurt Hennig were talking, and I guess Kurt refuses to put the colors on, so he stooges to Hogan, thinking that I'm gonna get in Hogan's good graces, right? And then Hogan still makes him get into like a cab or something, or get into a car, like he's not part of the cool kids. And like you said, yeah, eventually he does become leader of the
B team, which it wasn't even officially that name. It's the name that the announcers pretty much gave
to let them know.
They said, they're the B team,
which is basically calling a bunch of scrubs.
Yeah. So the 25th of January, Henning's now out with all that went on. So he's gone. So now on the same night as Hennig gets removed. Hogan had teamed with Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner in a six-man tag team match against Chris Benoit, Ric Flair, and Steve McMichael, which ended in Hogan's team getting disqualified. Gee, go figure. So the next thing on the February 15th edition of Nitro, now Hogan once again is disqualified in a match, this time to Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper. I think Scott Hall comes out with the taser. I think that's what happens.
Yeah, same old. And of course, now at Super Bowl IX, Hogan successfully defends the title against Ric Flair.
Yeah, but
I don't know about you, but after 5 years, I'm getting tired of this feud.
No, but not only that, I don't know if you remember, this is the night that the Masked Man comes out. I'm pretty sure the Masked Man, which was David Flair, and he interferes.
He turns on his father,
and he turns on his father, and then now he's part of NWO Elite. David Flair.
You remember when we did the NWO episodes? We needed that dry erase board. I told everybody keep it handy because we're going to need it.
Oh Lord Jesus!
Luckily, the end of the NWO was near because this all didn't last long. While NW Wolfpack Elite had initial success with Hogan as the world champion, you had Scott Steiner as the television champion, and you had Scott Hall as the U.S. champion. Injuries played a huge part in this that messed it all up. Thank God. Scott Hall's foot was accidentally backed over.
Mm-hmm, I remember that.
Luger suffered a torn bicep, which as a result, Miss Elizabeth then goes on hiatus. Now she's off camera. At Uncensored, Hogan then drops the title to Ric Flair in a first blood steel cage match, which, by the way, combining two matches into one doesn't make any sense.
No, but you know what was stupid about this match? I don't know if you remember. This is the match where they're fighting. Hogan's trying to pin him, and then the referee's not counting the pinfall, right? He won't count it, because it was a first blood match. Then they're both bleeding, and Flair puts Hogan in the figure 4 leg lock and pins him because his shoulders are down, and it's a fast counter. But I'm like, wait a minute. You said that you couldn't win this by pinfall as a first blood match. Don't try to tell me since you couldn't determine who started bleeding first, that you just like, oh, well,
just call it a draw then.
Right, just call it no contest.
Exactly. WCW's known for him.
No.
But no, let's just do something stupid.
No, and it was Charles Robinson. It was Charles Robinson.
The little niche.
Yeah. I think, oh, Lord Jesus Christ.
Exactly. But hey, at least this is the one time Flair actually beat Hogan. Yeah. Because I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe out of 17 matches they've had,
most
Flair
of them,
16 of them. One of them, one he got the pin on. I'm sure he won by DQ and other things, but I mean, like I just said before, combining two matches into one doesn't make it any better.
Right, and so then after this, I know that something happens with Tori. The only good thing that David Flair did, I guess, was bring in Tori, right? Because I think he brought her in, right? Wasn't it like on-screen, whatever, valet, whatever you call it? And Hogan, I remember Hogan told Tori like, "Oh, I could beat Nash again if I wanted to, or something." So they were supposed to, and then Hogan eventually gets injured. But we'll get into that.
Oh yeah, he does. I got that. Yeah. So now the final champion for the NWO is Scott Steiner, and he dropped the television title to Booker T after Bagwell cost him the match. So then Steiner proceeded to attack Bagwell. Now Bagwell's out of the group. So the chaos and mayhem is continuing. They had on March 15th on Nitro, Hogan and Nash fought Goldberg and Flair to once again a no contest.
Yeah, and I think that was another match that Charles Robinson was refusing to pin because he didn't like.
Wasn't this around the time that he was using the little Nate? You know, he had the robe on and stuff. They were actually trying to make a little Flair.
I blocked a lot of this.
I do remember him doing it.
It's possible.
Because every time I see him now in WWE, because he's still doing the referee, I look at him and go, hey, it's little Nate.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, on Thunder, a couple of days later, on March 18th, Hogan defeats Curt Hennig. I guess, retribution for being thrown out. Following that, he beats Diamond Dallas Page. He's on a winning streak. He beats the Disciple. Well, on April 5th, Hogan competed in a 4-way match, which was interesting, against Goldberg, Diamond Dallas Page, and Ric Flair. And of course, the match ends in a no contest.
Right, because Hogan, I think he gets injured early on in the match, and I think that's a match where he gets like carried out or whatever, right? He doesn't. I don't think he finishes that match.
The official injury was at Spring Stampede, but yeah.
Yeah.
Now they also questioned it to see it. They didn't know if this was legitimate or not.
Right.
His injury,
or he was just like, I got it out of here.
Yeah, he supposedly got injured at Spring Stampede in a 4 corners match, refereed by Randy Savage. During the match, he had suffered a severe injury, which put him out of action, supposedly for it kept him out 3 months. He was away for a while. It was debated again, like I said, if it was legit. Only he knows. The DDP won the title that night in that match, so congratulations to him. He makes his return July 12th on Nitro.
Yep.
On this night, for the first time in 3 years, he faced Randy Savage.
Yeah, he accepted an open challenge. I think Macho Man.
Oh my God, yeah.
Macho Man had challenged him. He's still black and white when he comes out here.
Yeah,
he has the NWO Elite colors on when he comes out.
We're a month away from him getting back to the original, but on this night, Savage, who the night before won the title for pinning Kevin Nash in a tag team match. Remember, it was Nash and Sting versus Savage and Vicious.
Mm-hmm.
With interference from Kevin Nash, now Hogan defeated Savage to win his 6th and final world title.
Right, and then Nash challenges him right after the match.
Yeah, he turned on him, and
he turned on him.
Like I said, with the finger poke, the match was coming. Unfortunately, in January 4th, we wanted it that night, but now we're going to get it now. And on his way to facing Nash, July 19th on Nitro, he beats Sid Vicious by DQ. I actually like that match. I remember.
Yeah, they were supposed to. They were supposed to have a feud. They were supposed to have a
1 year later, yeah.
And I guess when Hogan leaves
shutdown
or
when WCW shut down for 2 weeks, they ended that feud. Because at Spring Stampede, all the titles were vacant.
Well, we'll get.
When we get to 2000, I'll explain how shutting down for 2 weeks was the stupidest thing you could ever done.
Definitely, yeah.
So the next week, Hogan now teams with Sting in a losing effort against Nash and Sid Vicious. That was another match I remember watching that was actually pretty good. The night we were all waiting for, though, was August 9th. On Nitro. Hogan started out the night dressed in the black and white, but after a backstage scene with his son, comes out dressed in the red and yellow.
And I remember the music he's a man.
And Shivani's like, what the hell? Yeah. We know it sounds familiar. Yeah. Oh Lord. And he comes out dressed back in the red and yellow, which is great to see.
Yeah, it was that was kind of cool for that moment. But it was
he teamed with Goldberg and Sting to defeat Nash, Rick Steiner, and Sid Vicious. So I mean, it's the same at this point now. It's pretty much becoming the same old. But we're accustomed to this ever since 1996.
Yeah, pretty much.
Same main event, same guys, same outcome. By this, we're not really pushing anybody new. And this is why the talent was like, I can go up to Connecticut and I can be recognized.
Yep.
So at Road Wild, Hogan now finally gets his hands on Nash one-on-one. He successly defends the title against him in a retirement match.
A retirement match, yeah, which we know how those
When they say career-ending match or retirement match, just know this. A couple of things can be it. Number one, the contract is up for that individual, and this is their way of leaving. Yeah. Number two, they have an injury, they need time off. Or number three, they just want the time off.
Right.
That's all it is. Nobody ever stays out. I mean, we've seen a bunch of these things. It's ridiculous.
No.
The worst was Bagwell and Kurt Hennig. Hennig loses the career-ending match, and 3 weeks later, he's wrestling again on Nitro. So, I don't know. Stop putting these stipulations in. At this point, it's watered down. So, once again, August 16th on Nitro, once again, Hogan's fighting Sid Vicious to a no contest. These no contests are getting out of hand.
Right,
yeah. I mean, really, somebody needs to get the upper hand here and get a pin.
On WCW trademark.
Yeah, seriously, that and bacon. So, the same outcome happened the following week when he fought Sting, because I believe wasn't it around this time that Sting had Hogan's telling him, "You can trust me, brother," but then Sting was the one that turned on him.
Yeah, he turns on him in Fall Brawl. Fall Brawl is when he turns on him. Turns heel.
Yeah, because they're having that constant Nitro thing where he can't trust Hogan. Hogan's like, "Brother, you can trust me."
Yeah, you can trust Hogan. Yeah, you can trust Hogan.
So August 30th on Nitro, a 2-on-3 handicap match. Hogan and Goldberg defeat Page, Bigelow, and Kanyon, the Jersey Triad.
Yeah.
I love that group. I mean,
they weren't
Kanyon
bad.
And Page. I mean, Bigelow was all right, but it was mainly I like Kanyon and Page together.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And, of course, Bigelow was calling out Goldberg, I believe, at this time, thinking he could beat him. Yeah, okay. Good luck with that one. So September 6th on Nitro, inside a steel cage, once again, Hogan, Goldberg, and Sting defeat Page, Steiner, and Vicious. You're seeing the pattern here, I'm hoping. That same guys for months. Main event. I mean, at this point, it's no wonder
Recycling.
people are tuning into
I had already
Monday Night
tuned
Raw.
out. I had already tuned
Oh,
out. I wasn't watching.
I was pretty much done.
I would read
The
up on
chat-
it. I would read up on it, but I wasn't.
Channel surfing was over.
Yeah.
Until, and I will say this, I did get the Spring Stampede pay-per-view because they were talking about, in the Slammer article the week before in the Daily News, it talked about how various people would be signing with WCW and coming in. So I was curious to see who they were bringing in, and unfortunately, really, it was only Mike Awesome. Well, that was about it. I was like, I wasted my $30 because I thought they were going to bring in some serious guys here with new storylines. You're going to make it better. No, you just made it worse. So at Fall Brawl, Hogan loses the world title to Sting. This will be the final time he would be getting it.
Because Sting turns heel, he hits him with a baseball bat, and DDP and Sid got involved in that match too, I think.
Yeah. September 13th on Nitro, Hogan teamed with Bret Hart. This was a good one, but in a losing effort against Sting and Luger. It's the same pattern again. Only Bret Hart was finally added to the mix, but not for long. October 4th, Hogan teams with Flair, which is shocking enough.
Yeah, right.
Defeating Sting and Luger once again. So here's where it gets interesting. What I like to call the controversial absence. At Halloween Havoc, Hogan's entrance music hits. Hogan doesn't come out. Next, Sting's music hits, and Sting comes out, and Shivani is going off saying, "Oh well, Hogan." It was either Shivani or Heenan. One of them said it. Oh well, Hogan has to be the center of attention. He has to come out last. Because Sting is coming out with the belt. He's looking behind him, and everybody's wondering what's going on.
It's worth noting. It's worth noting that this time Eric Bischoff got fired already. They sent him home, and Russo's in charge now.
Oh Lord. Yeah, that is like I used to say. The inmates are running the asylum at this point with Russo. Yeah. So once again, Hogan's music played. He finally comes out in regular clothes, which has got everybody baffled. Hogan laid down for Sting to cover him, and just like that, the match was over. Now, there were conflicting stories with this around what happened. The first one was that Vince Russo booked Sting to squash Hogan in 30 seconds.
Yes, I heard that one, yeah. I heard that one.
And this was Hogan's way of throwing a temper tantrum to show his outright refusal to job for the company. That's the first story. The other one, in his book, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Hogan stated that he was asked to take time off by Vince Russo and was not told when he would be brought back.
That actually sounds kind of feasible.
Remember, Russo, and we'll get to this when we get to Bash at the Beach, Russo has always told him, I don't know what to do with you. Yeah. And Hogan's saying, well, you're supposed to be this big, huge writer from WWE. You come down here, and the first thing you're telling the top draw is you have nothing for him.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was just utter hatred between Russo and Hogan. I think Russo despised him for whatever reason. Never admitted it.
He just didn't like him. We'll get into all of that later on with
I mean, and Hogan stayed out at this point until he made his return in February of 2000. And 2000 for him is going to be a roller coaster of weirdness for him. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 99 for Hogan, despite the legitimacy of his injury. So Hogan wins the title twice in 1999. One was bullcrap. The other open challenge, he wins against Macho Man. So, I mean, it was just a typical 99 for Hogan, NWO, same matches, same storylines, same everything. And this is going on for 3 years. And a feud with Flair for 5. I mean, after a certain time, you got to say, enough is enough. We need to come up with something different.
Yeah, unfortunately for Hogan, it only gets worse.
Well, he fights some people that you would never expect him to fight in his tenure in WCW.
And that's not necessarily a good thing.
No, really, it's not.
That's all right. So that's our episode. Next week, we're going to be covering 2000. So
boy,
buckle up.
Buckle up, kids. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
So please like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys soon.
Take care.